to attract, engage, and retain top talent. I'm Phil Isaacs, volunteer with Arizona SHRM College Relations. I met a few of you this morning in our class. And at the end of the session, remember to take 1 minute session survey. Tap on the schedule icon if you have it loaded down, the icon. Find the session, then tap name, hit the take survey, answer each question, then tap done. And I'm really thrilled today to introduce Davis McAllister, Dr. Davis McAllister. He's CEO in ETS for Enterprises LLC, has an amazing background and also a great book, which we'll talk about in a minute. Dr. Davis is a dynamic keynote speaker and business coach dedicated to transforming leaders into resilient problem solvers and build high-performing teams. Leveraging his extensive military background and successful entrepreneurial experience, Dr. McAllister brings a unique perspective to leadership development. His principles, honed through coaching award-winning sports teams, have proven effective across various domains. With 8 years of distinguished service in the U.S. Army as an interrogator, counterintelligence specialist, and linguist, Dr. McAllister received specialized training from the FBI and Mossad. Notably, he graduated at the Distinguished Honor Graduate from the U.S. Army Leadership and Development course, ranking first among 226 soldiers. His academic credentials include a master's degree in educational leadership, further solidifying his experience in guiding others to awareness. He has published 5 books, and this one's called The Interrogator's Guide to Leadership Excellence. We could all have used this day one in HR.
Glad everybody's here. Hope that we're going to have enough people show up and people go eat and fall into their diabetic comas in the hotel. So, how many of you absolutely love going through the hiring process? Is that facetious way?
No, not at all.
Okay. I own several businesses, built some businesses up, sold them, and one of the most difficult things is trying to find the right people. And then trying to find a process, because with this day and age, with the use of artificial intelligence, AI, that's being thrown around a lot today. There's a lot of different classes on AI. How many of you are already using AI in your hiring processes? Okay. Handful, right? And for a lot of people, AI is scary. When I first saw that they were coming up with this AI model and all these things, I'm a little older. My brain automatically went to Terminator. So, I'm like, great, they're going to take over, we're all going to die. But it prompted me to really want to take a deep dive into it. I do business coaching. I have businesses that will bring me in and look at their business processes, including talent acquisition and creating a talent pipeline. And it's interesting to see the differences that people have in their approach. And we want to try to always continue to keep up with the times. We want to try to stay ahead of the curve. And hopefully by the end of today, you'll feel a little bit more confident in doing that. So, you can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world. According to Walt Disney, it requires people to make the dream a reality. There's one thing wrong with that. It requires the right people to make that dream a reality. You have to have the right fit. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of variations. I was a high school coach for 12 years, and college scouts that had come to the school, had several players that went on and played D1, D2, and I was asking, when you come and you're looking at a player, what are you looking for? And he says, what we're looking for is not where they are right now, but what is their potential? What can they develop into? And so that prompted me to start thinking, when I started getting into business and businesses and working with businesses, why can't we take the same approach? We have a streamlined process. But the other thing that they said was that you've got to find the right fit for the program that you because football fans anymore. Couple. Okay? But there's a ton of different schemes that you run. And you have different players that fit those schemes. Every organization is a little different. They have a different culture. We may absolutely know the culture of your organization. And there's a lot of human resources, directors, managers that do not. They don't know what goes on outside their office. And we're going to talk about a few things that you need to pay attention to there. So, to get started with, you'll pull out your phone, scan that code up there. I want you to tell me what's your biggest challenge in hiring today. I've done enough of these conferences in the last couple of years. All right. So everybody make note of that. The majority of you feel like finding qualified candidates is the most challenging thing. When we get done with this, you're going to figure out that finding the qualified applicants is going to be the easiest thing for you to do. And we're going to flip that narrative. So, what are our goals today? Those first four words that I wrote there, I want you to pay attention to that and make note of that, because we're going to use that as a methodology later today. Okay? So attract, engage, and retain top talent using emerging trends and data-driven strategies. Hiring should not be guesswork. It should not be a gut feeling. Okay? Sometimes that gut feeling is just gas. So you need to have something a little bit more solid to rely on. Be able to embed technology at every stage of your talent life cycle. When we talk about life cycle, we're talking about from the time that you post that job description, collect resumes, do interviews, hire, and develop. That's the full life cycle. Most people don't include that last one, the development part. And then being able to build a resilient workforce strategy. When we talk about resilience, one of the talks that I do, I talk about resilience leadership. Resilience is the capacity to have the ability to adapt to challenges and overcoming obstacles. Capacity. How many of you have ever read any John Maxwell's books? There's one that's my favorite, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And he talks about the law of the lid. The law of the lid correlates directly with capacity. You're only going to be able to grow to the level that you're able to handle the level of growth. The McDonald's brothers, he used McDonald's brothers as an example of that. They started a great hamburger joint out of California, but because of their capacity and where they were and their mindset, they were never ever going to grow out of that one store. It took somebody else with a bigger capacity to come in, look at the operation, figure out how to streamline it, and be able to build a franchise, not the McDonald's brothers. So we talk about capacity. When we talk about resiliency, how many of you have ever put together a plan and everything went exactly the way you wanted it? I have a running joke. It says, if I want to make it like that, I'll tell them my plans. You've got to be adaptable. That's where that other part of the definition comes in. Resiliency is adaptability and flexibility. Be able to have a single goal that you're trying to hit, come up with a pathway, and there's a lot of people that when you look at different people that do planning and leadership, they call them two categories. You have people that they have to see the entire highway built before they can move forward. And then you have people that I call into this category, I don't have to see the whole highway. All I need to know is where it's supposed to go, and I'll build a highway somewhere. Not everybody's like that. So, traditional hiring. Let's talk about the old school way of doing things. So we're going to post a job, we're going to wait for resumes, and then we're going to wait, and then we're going to wait, and we'll wait a little more. And then we finally get somebody that sends in a resume. We start using interview processes, and because we got just a few talent pool that we were able to pull resumes from, because everything's done on paper. We had time to go with gut feeling, and then as soon as we felt like we had somebody that was good, we got an offer. And we rushed the process from that point. Because we'd already been waiting so long, that position had been sitting open, and as long as that position sits open, what's it costing the company? And then you end up with somebody that, you treat the candidate, the old school way of doing things is that people have this attitude that they're doing you a favor by offering you a job. That was great. That's a great mentality when we're talking about the Great Depression. Okay? But that's not where we're at. And then you end up having somebody that leaves after 6 months because what they got hired into wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And so you end up with high turnover rates. You ended up with wasting time and money and loss of resources. So the new way to do it is leverage AI and automation to attract and screen the right candidates faster. Now, one of the things that I like to do, and I've done it for one of you, I'm sorry, I go on LinkedIn and I pull up jobs. I'll put up a title of something and I'll go in and I'll look at jobs. And sometimes I'll go through their process of job application. There's been a couple that I was intrigued enough that I went ahead and went through their interview process just to see what they were doing. I had one company that hired me to do that for them because they wanted to see what was going on. The C-suite level, folks wanted to know what was going on because there were some issues. And some of these job postings, you'll be able to see how many people have applied for that job. That's a long time if you got to sit down and sort through those. You got to have help with that. So the other thing that you got to be concerned about is building an employer brand. You want people to work for you. It should not be you doing them a favor by coming and working at your place. You want to build a brand that you want to be the best place that people want to come work. They actually have a survey that they distribute out to universities every year to do surveys, and they send it out. Of course, one university that I work with, the president sends it out and says, everybody go in here and vote, so that they can be the greatest college in the U.S. to work for. But they're trying to build a brand. They're trying to build something that's going to bring in the best and top talent to come in and be able to educate. Okay. Personalizing candidate experiences to keep engagement high from day one. How many of you have had a really great applicant and something happened, all of a sudden they just disappeared? Anybody had that happen? And then you don't know why. How many of those of you that raised your hand, how many actually contacted them and asked them why? What did you get? And there's some possible reasons for that. And we'll talk about what some of those things are that can happen as to why you may lose good candidates. So let's talk about the talent landscape today. So trend number one, you have AI and automation that are changing the game. So you have AI-powered tools that now screen resumes, okay, conduct initial interviews, and even write job descriptions.
What's your experience been with AI and diversity and inclusion? Because the EEOC came out and said that, hey, it doesn't recognize diverse backgrounds, etc. What's your experience with that?
Are you talking about as far as employment, or are we talking about like students and their classwork, or
Actually, in the recruiting side.
the what?
In the recruiting process.
Oh, in the recruiting process? As far as I know, that there's quite a few universities that are doing that, screening candidates. Most of them are your post-grad programs, when they have to be a little bit more meticulous about who they bring in. We're talking about doctorate level programs, sometimes master's programs, but as far as the initial candidates, I haven't heard of too many that's screen that process like that, because they usually have a system, and they like the system, and they don't want to change the system. Yeah. I'm not saying that there's not some that don't. I'm just saying the ones that I've worked with have not used it on that level. So we have a rise in candidate-driven marketing. So that candidates have more choices. If you pull up do a job title on LinkedIn and try to see what kind of jobs that are out there, you will pull up pages of openings. Pages of openings. So the other thing about candidates too is that they're going to do their homework. Some of them will do their homework before they put an application in. Some of them will do their homework after they put the application in. Some of them will do it before they do the first interview. But they're going to do their homework. When I've gone in and I look at companies and I look at some of the job descriptions that have been posted, I'm going to take just a quick look at that company to see what their reputation is. It goes back to the branding. I want to see what their reputation is. Now, most people know if you go on Yelp, you're always going to find people that were disgruntled of some sort with the company or an experience that they had. But when it's consistently employees and you start seeing the same complaint about the company, or you see the same complaint about a specific department, that's not disgruntlement. That's a pattern. It's a pattern that probably should be addressed. And number 3, employees want more than just a paycheck. Now, I will say, I tried to find a statistic on it. I couldn't find one, but I tried to find a statistic that showed how many people will get an application just based on what the salary said. They don't even read the job description. They just see a salary that they want, and they'll post an application for it. Again, the need for the screening process. So, they care about company culture. They care about where they fit in. Going back to the first trend there, also, when you set up AI, you have to make sure that your algorithms are set up correctly. Because it's very easy to mess that up if you don't have your algorithms set properly. Because you may be filtering out candidates because you wanted everything in Times New Roman and they put it in Comic Sans. Okay? So you have to be very careful about how you designate your algorithms when you're going to filter candidates. So, basically all this means is that time to change. Okay? But it's not too late to change what you're doing and be able to get back in the game or ahead of the game. Because if you're still doing things the same way that you were 5 years ago, you're behind. You've got to constantly evolve. And one of the things that happens in education, because things are always constantly changing, they look at the continuing education of teachers. Every year, there's some sort of big thing that they come in a book or some study that they want to do or some bright idea that somebody had about how better educate students. And then that's the hard push for that entire year. And then the next year, they'll bring in somebody that has something completely different. A lot of times it's contradictory to what they told you the last year to do. Okay? But the goal is trying to stay ahead of the curve and keep evolving. So, here's some of the realities. Again, competition for talent is fierce, right? Problem is, you're all fishing out of the same talent pool. Question is, what kind of bait are you throwing out? If you're going blindfold and putting rubber worms in a bass fishing tournament, sorry, that's a little fun fishing. I use a lot of those analogies. You're just shooting in the dark. And the expectations have changed. They want a quick hiring process. Does anybody know what the current standard is from post to hire? 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I'm here and,
I have a hand up.
No, it was me, it's okay.
Okay. How many of you are at the 6-week point? Okay. How hard is it to maintain candidate interest? Difficult?
Very.
Yeah. If you're mediocre, you're at the 4-week mark. Optimally, it should be 2 weeks. Yes. And then retention, that's just as important as hiring. So you get somebody in, how do you keep them? How do you keep them interested? How do you keep them engaged? That kind of comes back to your organizational culture as well. Because if your goal is to hire somebody that they're creative and they're movers and shakers and they're constantly moving forward, and then you hire them and the first thing that you want to do is put your thumb on them and try to make them just the best person, you hired the wrong person. And they're not going to stay. If you need somebody that's just going to be able to automate and just do things and fall in line and do what they're told, those people are out there. And it's okay to hire those people, but you got to make sure that's what you're hiring them for. And they know that's what you're hiring them for. If you're hiring somebody that's going to come in and be creative and be able to make changes and be able to see things a little differently, be able to make improvements, don't hire them and then turn around and try to put your thumb on them and not allow them to do what their talents are. So the good news is that there's always an opportunity to be able to improve, get better, make changes, and try to get caught up. So we're going to go into some AI-powered tools. So resume screening and candidate matching. And I update this every 3 months, this list. And I have some that drop off, and I have some that I add on, because it's constantly changing. I had some that before I updated this, that had just dropped off about a month prior. And it had changed focus. But you have automated screening processes. You have HireView, that's a pretty common one that people use. Beamery is a new one that's hit the market this year. They can do video interviews, assess communication. You have some programs that they will do facial analysis while somebody's talking or going through their interview. Humanly is another one that's pretty common, but a lot of people have gone into the LinkedIn Recruiter AI. If you're posting things into LinkedIn, a lot of times they're already using AI to do it. You don't even know that it's AI working. AI has developed to the point where people can actually run businesses and you can give AI tasks to do. I have an AI agent that answers emails for me. It screens my phone calls. It will go through and do social media posts for me, create them and post them. Puts a nice picture up there for me. Okay? That frees me up. The other thing is that I didn't necessarily have to hire somebody to do it because that's such a simple task. That's not cost efficient for our concern. If I want to hire somebody, I want them to do bigger things. And I want that to free up my time. Little things. Then you have chatbots and candidate engagement. A really common one is Paradox Olivia. There was one that was up there for a while. They changed their direction. It was called Jasper. Jasper was formerly known as Jarvis. They had to change the name because of irony. Because Tony Stark's AI that he had working was named Jarvis, and so people were confusing the Jarvis AI program for hiring chatbots for the same thing, and so they changed it to Jasper to decrease the confusion. And now they've completely changed direction altogether and got off the board.
Just
So,
call it Iron Man.
say again?
It's just gonna call it Iron Man next.
Yeah. Eightfold AI is pretty handy because you can use it for multiple functions. Okay? There's a lot of things you can use for multiple things. Some of them also have a CRM component. Do you know what a CRM is? Okay. You know, when I go through and I do outreaches for engagements or trying to build up my list for media stuff, you know, I have a CRM and I have an AI that manages my CRM. Job descriptions, recruitment management. Job descriptions. I'll pull up some job descriptions, and you know, they got a million bullet points on there. And they want 10 years experience for an entry-level position, and they wonder why they can't get anybody to apply. Or if they do have somebody apply, they don't have the 10 years experience because that's unreasonable. So use AI to be able to help write your job descriptions, optimize it, keep it concise. The average person, when they go through and they read a job description, they'll give you about 30 seconds. And if you have piqued their interest, this just is no different than I would work with my athletes and we would put together highlight reels, right, to send out to college scouts. You had the first 20 seconds to be able to catch the coach's attention with a highlight reel before they just said, nope, and move on to the next one. This is the same thing. If you can't pique their interest and catch their interest, my favorite is the one that spends, they have the description this long, and the first half of it, you can tell they don't have a brand because the first half of it is talking about their company. And then the rest of it is trying to get in and squeeze in a job. No one's going to take the time to do that. Unless they're really desperate. So, you want to be able to optimize that, keep it clear and concise. And if there's any questions after that, that's what the interview process is. Then you have video interviews, skill assessment. So you have higher views to AI driven. Interviews, this is the one that does spatial analysis. It also analyzes speech patterns. You have modern hire, and it does job specific skills and cognitive abilities. One of the things that LinkedIn does too is that it has a skills-based assessment that it will make recommendations. When somebody's looking for a job, they can put a request in or put a setting in there, and it will send them job postings based off of skills assessments of what they're most qualified for. Could you do the same thing going the other way? You're looking for people that have the skills that you're looking for. There's a lot of people that are looking for a new job that don't know that they're looking for a new job yet. Yes, it's called hypocrisy, but if you offer them a better deal than where they're at, that's not them. 70% of people that are in the workforce they're passive talent, which means they're not actively looking for a job. 30% are actively looking for a job. 87% of both of those combined will take a job opportunity if it's the right offer. So just because somebody's not looking doesn't mean that they're not a candidate. Internal mobility and workforce planning. This is where I get a little bit into talent development. These are programs that are allowing you to be able to track your employees and see what their skill development is and how they're doing in their training. Now tell me if this makes sense or not. When you have to replace somebody, usually that average cost is about 33% of their annual salary until you get a new person hired. And the longer you go with that process, the more you're losing. That's what it's costing you. So, if you're losing that money, you've got to get somebody to do it quick. So why not have the ability to be able to promote them? Because you're already developing and training your employees inside. If you hire somebody entry level, it should be with the goal of just having them do the job. It's like we talked about before, you're hiring them with potential, because they're going to be a good fit. There's somebody that's going to be able to grow and develop, because it's cheaper to hire somebody at the entry level than it is to replace somebody at mid management and up. It's going to cost you more, because they get paid more, and that 33% is more. So it makes more sense to hire somebody at the entry level, develop your internal pipeline, promote from within. Because this is what it says about a company. If you can't look at what you have inside your company and find a good candidate for a new position higher up, you're not doing your company justice, because you're not developing the talent that's there, or you're hiring the wrong people. Does that make sense? All right. We talked about these words at the beginning: attract, engage, and retain. So you want to be able to build a magnet for an employer brand. So to do that, you've got 75% of candidates are going to research a company before they apply. You have a strong employer brand, reduces hiring costs by up to 50%. If you've already developed a reputation, you're going to draw in higher talent that's going to reduce your time and effort to bring in better candidates. And the people want to work for companies that they respect, trust, and see as a career destination. Here's the other thing too with that is that everybody here is in HR. So how many people that are within your job field, even though you may not work for the same company? If you have a bad experience with something, aren't you going to talk? They are too. Okay? If they have a specialty, and they have a bad experience at a company, and they find out that somebody is looking to hire and going to go apply at that company, your reputation is intact. So you want to build up that reputation as a place that people work. Okay, so here's some tactics. Leverage social media and storytelling. You have LinkedIn and TikTok, right? That you can go through and just do some quick videos and be able to demonstrate what your company culture is. And make sure it's genuine. Don't use stock videos, stock photos. You don't have 90% of your people all sitting there working on a computer with a smile on their face. Right? Make sure that it's genuine. You use real employees. Talk about success stories. You can do behind the scenes videos called A Day in the Life at your company. You can use LinkedIn for that. They have a feature for that. They have something called LinkedIn Life pages. And then you can use TikTok resumes to help. There's some companies that they're trying to figure out how to work with Gen Z a little better and bring those people in. And so they're using TikTok resumes to do that. And then you have companies like Glassdoor and Comparably, right, that are using the employer branding and AI tools to be able to help improve their employer brand. You can create videos with it. You can do sound bites with it. It's a pretty handy tool. Okay, and the script, I use the script. When I go through it, so I have a YouTube show. It's called The Approach. It's under my name on YouTube, so you want to look at it. But I use the script, so I film, a video remotely, an interview session, and I put it through the script, and it helps take it, scrub it, and put it together and clean it up for me. And then you can take that and post it. So you can do a video. You don't have to go back and do all the manual. We'll do the editing for you, and then you just download it and upload it. So we talk about LinkedIn Live pages, which is a useful tool, and it allows you to showcase your employee experiences and company culture. Use data and analytics to identify engaged talent. So you have AI tools like Eightfold, right? It's going to be able to help you predict where your top talent is looking. It's going to analyze several different platforms. We're talking about Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, several different platforms, and it will give you statistics of where people are looking for jobs. And if people are concentrating their looking efforts in one area, and you're trying to hire somewhere, probably ought to jump in talent insights. These are all, this is just a list of different ones. Human talent data cloud, iSIMS, predictive attrition analytics, there's one's called Workday. Then employee referral programs. Got some interesting statistics for referrals. 35% of employees refer to help their friends. 35%. That's a third of your company that's willing to refer somebody in to be able to help a friend out. 32% do it to help their company out. That's still a third. 26% do it so that they can be seen as valuable, look at me type mentality. Okay? And then you have 6% that just do it for money and recognition. If you bring somebody in and they end up hired who you refer to, they'll get a bonus. Some people do it just for that. So you may not necessarily get the good referral. So, second part is engage. Enhance your candidate experience. So, 60% of job seekers are going to abandon applications due to long and complex processes. The people that are receiving the most applications and seeing those high level of applicants, 3,000 plus, they have one page. They fill in their basic information, the demographics, upload their resume, cover letter if they want it, and send it. Those are the ones that consistently get the most applicants in. It drives me nuts when I go through and I start looking and they have you upload your resume, and then once you go through and input everything that's on their resume individually. I'm old. I have a 6-page resume whittled down. I'm not going to go in and type all that in. And you also have to pay attention to some of your AI programs because you can upload the resume, sometimes it doesn't filter right. So you need to make sure that you're having people test that and get feedback because it'll try to pull things out that may not necessarily be experience or descriptions of duties and those things, and it makes it difficult to use. So if it starts becoming too difficult, people will bail out of that because it's taking too long. 80% say their experience impacts whether they accept a job offer. So I'm just going to give you an example of one that I went ahead and pushed it through to the interview process. Put in an application, got a call, set up the date for the initial interview. So as we had in this structure, we had an HR manager, we had somebody that was the filter that you interviewed with first. Had a great conversation, was very veteran friendly. And by the time we got to that end of that conversation, I felt like I was at the top of the list when I got done with that conversation. She told me what the next steps were going to be. I would meet with the HR director on Monday. So this was on Friday. I would meet the HR director on Monday, do an interview with her, and then I would do something by Tuesday or Wednesday. We got to the next Monday, had a meeting with the HR director, and there's a common one that's out there a lot of people are using, it's called Greenhouse AI. She spent the entire interview looking at a different screen and typing everything I said. The only time she made eye contact with me was when we first got on. That's not a good experience. You're supposed to be having an interview with me. You're supposed to be talking to me, not just taking what I say so you can put it into an algorithm and see if it's going to filter me out or not. If you're going to do that, it's fine. Have somebody else do it off to the side and listen. So that was the first off push. Okay. So we got done with that. Got to Tuesday, and we're the first one coming. I will know something by Tuesday or Wednesday. If you tell somebody that you're going to do something, your word is your bond, whether you want it to be or not. If you tell somebody, especially somebody that's got a lot of talent and a high potential for your company, and you don't follow through with what you tell them to do, you have already busted trust. And you have already demonstrated what your organization is like. You're going to tell me one thing and do something else. None. And again, I wasn't trying to get the job. I was just looking to see what the process was like. And I didn't hear anything for 3 weeks. I do know for a fact that I was at the top of their candidate list. They went aside that they could hire a little cheaper. That's fine. But when you do something to somebody like that, say that first candidate that you wanted to hire, that one doesn't work out. You're going to go to the next one's down, right? If you did that to them in that process, you'll be lucky if they answer an email or a phone call. So you've lost the candidate just because, well, I already got one that I like and dismissed. Now, what else have you also heard? Your employer. Negative experiences damage your employer brand. Again, candidates talk. People will go on, they'll put at the end. They'll go on and they'll file complaints, they'll put stuff. I'll actually go back and I'll look at a business and I'll see how many complaints they've had against the Better Business Bureau, if they have anything from the State Consumer Resources Office. I'll look and see what the comments are on Yelp. I immediately go to 1 star, 2 stars, and start looking. And what I'm looking for is a pattern. If there's a consistent pattern there, then the next question is that where is that pattern coming out of? Usually, you can narrow it down to a specific department, or people that are working for a specific individual or group of individuals. So, how are you going to improve that? Streamline your application process. Mobile-friendly application process, where they don't have to be sitting in front of a computer. Most people will can do their entire thing off their phone. Okay? I don't have a watch on, so focus on my speaking time. Track time. Okay? Take out unnecessary steps. Again, don't make somebody upload their 3 to 4 page resume and then go back and put it all back in by hand. 1 page. It's basic information you need from them. Have them upload their resume, their cover letter if you want that, and hit send. You can also use AI chatbots to answer questions. How many websites can you go to now that you can hit the little chat button and you know you're talking to an AI, okay? But they're able to answer questions for you based on an algorithm that they have. And if they can't answer those questions, then the AI will tell them you need to schedule an appointment or make a phone call. It will direct you to that. So an example of that would be iSales. Okay? It's a higher platform. It helps with application efficiency. So, it's still human resources. Okay? We still have to have the human part out. All the rest of this is meant to streamline this whole process so that you can focus on what? All technology has ever done throughout the history of people is to try to find a way to do something, to make something easier and more efficient. That's all this is. It's something to be able to take and make the process easier for you to be able to focus on other things and be able to do it faster. Automated emails, that's fine, okay? But you need to also personalize them, especially if it's a high-level candidate that you're trying to engage. I can look at an email, I can tell if AI wrote it or not. And one of the ways I can tell is because I'll look at the address. If they send it through an AI program, it'll tell that in the email address. Keep candidates updated. Like I told you, with one, didn't hear anything for 3 weeks. If I was actively looking for another job, guess what I would have done? I would have already hired on somebody else anyway. Okay? Don't keep people in the dark. Keep them updated on where they are in the process. You can automate it. If you're rejecting somebody, you can have that automation, and that's fine. But at least let them know. And you can actually put things in there. There's AI programs right now. There's one's called Apollo AI. It's a CRM that I use. And it will go through and break down a person's position and do a background on them. And then when it sends an email, it puts personalized information about them in that email. So whether I actually wrote it or not, that's what it looks like. Looks like I wrote it. There's a new one that's just hit the market, okay? They have their career sites. They can adjust job recommendations and application flows. All right, and then the last part is retain. Once you get them, how do you keep them? Okay? So again, losing an employee costs 33% of their annual salary. 70% of workers will leave for better career growth opportunities if you don't have one. This is the struggle that a lot of smaller companies have. There's limited growth potential. So unless that company is actually looking at expanding, the goal is to train people to where they can leave, and they're going to be valuable for somebody else, but they don't want to leave. Because of the culture and their experience that they're having. That's something that quotes off the top of my head, so that's not exactly how I look at this. And then investing in employees builds loyalty, engagement, and long-term success. What do your employees value? Other than free pizza. What do they value? Are you supplying them with opportunities to be able to continue to grow? So, employees should see exactly how they can grow. When you hire them, if there is a pathway for them to follow, you want to be able to show them what that potential is, because that's going to keep them interested. You're giving them a goal to shoot for, especially if your company is expanding. Give them a pathway to follow. Implement mentorship programs. Now, make sure that when you pair people, you at least do a decent job of pairing personalities. And you always have to have the one guy that's the jerk in the office. Don't take that one and put him over somebody. Okay? Internal talent marketplaces. You have things like Float that will track your employees, and then when you have new opportunities pop up, it will match your employees and tell you, hey, these employees are the best candidates for this position for an internal promotion. It does the legwork and homework for you. And this is just another list of different ones. So you have Glow, Payfold, Workday, LinkedIn, internal mobility, and then Beamery. Okay? Again, Glow is a common one. Now, upskilling and workforce development. Provide continuous learning so employees stay engaged. Give them learning opportunities. Okay? Offer micro-learning. LinkedIn has tons of training programs. Free training programs for them to be able to continue to work on skill development that you can use. And there's a bunch of different ones out there. Okay? You have Workday Skills Cloud. That's a list of all, not all, but the most common programs that are out there that you can use for skill development. That they can go through training, continue to expand their knowledge and their skills, and make them more valuable. Because what should you be doing? You should be preparing them for the future. Hopefully your future in your company. Okay. Again, LinkedIn Learning. There's so many things on LinkedIn Learning. I created my first LinkedIn account in 2008, and it wasn't very popular, it wasn't very well known. About 8 years go by, and I figured out, I need to get back into LinkedIn because everybody's using it now. And then they started developing all these different programs and training that you can use. Quick case study, okay. You have Innovate Tech. They're a mid-sized tech company. They specialize in self-service, automation, convenience stores, vending, that type of thing. And because they have rapid growth, they were having a hard time We need to hire enough frontline technicians, and then they also need more customer support staff and sales professionals. So there are hiring challenges that have high turnover. They couldn't keep anybody for longer than 6 to 9 months. They had a 45-day on average fill position, which is about 6 weeks. Okay. Low applicant engagement, so 60% would drop off before they ever. You can actually track how long somebody gets through your application process through certain programs, and be able to see at what point they just quit, and track how many of those do that. And then you have employees that don't see promotion opportunities, so that leave competitors. So this was the problem they had. So takeaways. We apply our attract, engage, and retain. Okay, this should showcase real employee stories. This is the solutions. All right, using LinkedIn, job sites, shorten the application process, and use AI chat box to help facilitate, and then introduce an internal career path program that we talked about because they didn't have one. People didn't. Here's a post survey. Let's see what you come back with. You guys flipped on me from the last conference I went to. So the last couple of conferences that I've done this, the engage, improving the candidate experience. Oh, there we go. And it was where when we started? At the bottom. Okay. So one thing what you do is consider what's your one action step that you're going to do when you get back. What's your first thing that you're going to do? All it takes is the first step. And then if anybody wants to reach out to me, find me, these are my links. Okay. But that's also a link to my YouTube channel if anybody wants that. I do a lot of posting on interviews with high-level performers, 500 business coaches.